Hello and good evening, everyone. My name is Stephen Fluin.
That was a weird way to say that.
Yeah, it's more fun when you do interesting things.
I'm Jeremy, and I think if anybody is actually watching, they probably know who we are.
Yeah, but I don't know. That's like literally every time I answer my phone, it's Stephen Fluin. Just because, what if you call the wrong person, right? You just want to know right away. There's no, oh, I'm sorry, is this a wrong number? It's funny though. I answer my phone Stephen Fluin, and it's shocking how many people say, "Is this Stephen?" I'm like,
Yep. So I have a friend, right, who his voicemail answering message is just his name like that. And I know this, right? I've gotten his voicemail dozens of times, and still, like, I get that when I answer, I'm like, John, is that you?
Yep. All right, so we can play some games tonight. I want to update some Angular apps. Like I've got this really cool game that I started building, and I just got nowhere with. Let me share my screen a little bit.
Okay.
Share screen. That one.
Let's see. The basic engineer says our conversation seems to have started before going live.
That's all right. You didn't miss anything. All right, so here, check this out. I am in a very nice Angular project that I started working on a while ago, and we can take a look at the package.json. This is Angular 7, and so I think before we can work on an Angular app, Jeremy, we need to get it up to date. So let's yarn, and then I'm going to buck all of the advice that the Angular team gives you and go straight from version 7 to a version 11.
Good luck with that.
Do you think it's going to work?
Well, I took today off. I'm not working.
Okay. So, yeah, I think everything's been relatively the same when it comes to ng update between version 7 and version 11. So, like, this should work, unless you change a bunch of the APIs in the CDK drag drop at any point in there.
We may have changed some if you were extending classes, but I don't think you're doing that.
Why would I ever extend classes?
You say it. People do it.
Well, here's the good news. We won't need node-sass anymore, which takes forever to build.
Yeah,
right?
you should switch away from node-sass. It's
unmaintained.
It is unmaintained and deprecated. And it's replaced by Dart-Sass, or just the NPM package. It's just called Sass, which is built and maintained by the Sass team who works at Google. And they, back in a time when we worked in offices, they sat next to us.
I love those times when people sat in offices.
Boy, I sure do miss being in an office.
It's funny, like I read somewhere that like all the perks of Google are totally dependent on you being in the office. Right.
I mean, we got different perks for being work from home. But
all right, Yarn is out of date. Am I using Yarn version manager? No. Do I just execute arbitrary code coming straight from the internet?
Well, it's from yarnpackage.com.
All right, we should be good now. But then the build actually failed, right? So is this node-sass failing?
That looks like node-sass giving you a bunch of output. It probably worked anyway.
G. All right, so we do have Angular. So let's try and just go ng update at angular/CLI at Angular core at Angular next. Oh, before we do this, let's make sure that we have a clean Git repository. Analytics. I don't know why I'm importing environment, but let's just say sure. All right, so now let's go ahead and run this command. So at Angular next is not a thing. Material. Package not installed Angular material. Oh, I'm CDK. I don't think I was ever actually using material. I was just using the CDK drag drop directly. All right. Whenever you're trying to run an ng update command and it says, this stuff's all incompatible, I don't like that, you can just do force. And then things usually just start working.
I always end up doing that when I am upgrading something. I'm just like, I go to do it, and it's like, you need to do a bunch of stuff. I'm like, I'm not going to do any of that. Force.
Yeah. I mean, I had originally proposed, when I proposed ng update, I thought you shouldn't actually give it any packages. Like, you should just run ng update, and it should just try and do the thing that you want it to do. And then you can always give it more options, or you can ask for like ng update or help or dry run or anything like that. But the current manifestation is that when you run ng update without any parameters, it like tries to list packages that you can update, but it in my mind doesn't do a great job because it's like using some weird mix of old versions and new versions in your package JSON.
Yeah, I never even bother reading it. I'm just like, force, just do it.
I mean, I do see something that's terribly, terribly wrong. 1200 probably shouldn't be using. I mean, it will work, but it probably shouldn't be using 1200 of any of that junk.
I mean, it'll work. It's not gonna
Yeah.
we don't release broken stuff.
People get very confused by our first next zero release because we used to call it beta, and everyone would be like, "Oh my god, the beta of Angular 12 is out. What's in it? Like, tell me all about what's in like beta 12, like beta for Angular 12." And I'm always like, "Nothing. We've done less than a week of work."
Yeah, I know.
So I really like that we renamed it to Next, because then it's kind of clear, like, yeah, this is just the place where we're putting all the Next stuff.
Yeah. So one of the things NPM changed recently is that you can see the download statistics for individual versions. So that's going to be interesting going forward.
Oh wow, that's super useful. Invalid rule result instance of class promise. Okay, we're gonna do this the old timey way. We're gonna do it one version at a time. And see get status. So theoretically, this should work as intended, right? Like sometimes when you're going between too many versions, we've changed stuff behind the scenes on how you actually update and how ng update works. So if we go one version at a time, it should just seamlessly work, but I should just... Actually, once I'm on version 9, I'll probably just jump directly to 11 or 12.
Yeah, going from 9 to anything after that should be really straightforward. Going to 9, like, has the potential.
9's going to be the tough one
because of Ivy.
I didn't expect 8 to be the tough one. This is really slow. I have like a really fast internet. What's going on here? We're going to do the old nmon.
I mean, it's probably done downloading. It's just installing.
Do you have nmon on your machine? It's like top, but it shows you CPU, memory, disk usage, network usage. It's pretty sweet. I like it. Where's network?
I haven't really used my Linux workstation much in a very long time. Boy, how long? Oh, how I miss it.
So like, it looks like we're probably CPU bound because it's probably single threaded, and this keeps spiking up.
That's why you got to use Bazel.
I have a new computer coming that's 16 core.
When is your new computer getting there?
Middle of March is the new estimate. Allegedly that just worked, so let's...
What game are you going to play to be the pinnacle of testing out your new computer?
I mean, Cyberpunk 2077. Because if cars don't float, then that's a good sign. Oh, Jeremy, can't find module node-sass. When did we remove node-sass?
We didn't. Not yet, anyway.
What do you mean?
I don't know that so support for, or let me put it this way, compatibility with node-sass in Angular CDK and Angular Material is deprecated, but we haven't done anything to break it yet. We will be breaking it in version 12.
How do you remove? Oh, yarn remove.
Good morning, Eric Aska.
Good morning.
He said good morning.
I know. I'm saying good morning back. Cannot find module node-sass.
If anybody has questions about Angular in general, we can answer them. I'm just kind of sitting here wondering if I could get away with playing Stardew Valley without Steven noticing.
We can switch back and forth between Jeremy playing Stardew Valley and me trying to update Angular applications and overcoming all of the fun issues that can happen when you do that. I shouldn't have had to install node-sass, should I? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
I mean, you probably should have had it installed already.
Yeah, but we removed it as part of one of the schematics. Like, I bet if we
Did
look
we?
at Git history.
I don't know that we did. We talked about it at some point, but I don't remember anybody ever doing it.
Wait a minute. Why did my ng update not actually do anything? It looked like it finished, didn't it? Ng update. Packages installed successfully. I think this is a weird bug that I've seen before where npx ng is running the wrong Angular CLI. Let's try and fix that. God, I hate Node sometimes.
It's not great.
I'm on Node 12, which should be super compatible with all the versions we're talking about here. So let's just go node modules.bin ng update. Okay, that's looking better. That looks like it's actually doing something this time. See, the official instructions tell you to do it all separately. One version at a time, one set of packages at a time. We're still waiting for node-sass. Is node-sass your fault, Jeremy? Whose fault is node-sass?
So, I mean, the history behind node-sass is that Natalie originally wrote Sass in Ruby, but that got really slow, and there was a community effort to build a C++ implementation of Sass that was much faster, and that's called libsass, and that is what node-sass is based on top of. However, the maintainers for libsass eventually weren't able to continue working on the project anymore and keep it up to date. And Natalie and the rest of the Sass team rewrote Sass from Ruby into Dart and deprecated the Ruby version, and the Dart version is basically good enough. I think it's not as fast as the C++ version still, but it's in a place where they can actually get there eventually. Especially if if you are running the Dart compiled to JavaScript, right, then it's not as fast as C++. If you're running it in the Dart VM, it's actually either comparable or faster, if I remember correctly. It's just that when you're doing it from Node, you're not running it through the Dart VM yet. They are, I think, exploring ways to do that. It's called like embedded Sass or something like that. But because the maintainers for libsass aren't able to work on the project anymore, it's deprecated. Node-sass is deprecated, unmaintained, and people should switch away from it. It doesn't have all the new features of Sass anymore, and as new CSS features become available, it's going to start just not supporting those new CSS features.
All right, I am going to do a brief demos with Angular style tutorial right now. If you are ever unable to update your Angular application and you are not reliant on a bunch of the features of Angular, there is a relatively clean way to update your project. And so what you do is you move your project to a new folder, and then you npx at angular/cli new. Actually, let's npx at angular/cli. Let's make sure we're running the right version here. This should work, shouldn't it? What's wrong with my npx?
I don't use npx, so I don't know that I can help.
Let's get to the latest version of Node. Make sure we don't have weird problems with that. All right. Do we have a global CLI installed? version 9. All right, let's update that to the latest version. All right, so if we do ng-version, we should see version 12. Or version 11, sorry. Great. All right, so we're going to do ng new Hex Layer web. And what this is going to do is this is literally just going to make a brand new Angular project. I don't even need the router in this project. Let's use SCSS. Does anybody use Sass, Jeremy? Like versus SCSS?
The .sass file extension, the .sass.
Yeah.
It's not very popular.
I feel like it should be deprecated because it just adds like extra complexity to explaining Sass to people.
I don't know that like inside of Google, like barely anyone uses it. It's super, super minimal. And I've never seen anyone use it in the outside world in like the last 5 years. I think it was more, I barely even remember the syntax. It's like more Python-y or more like Ruby-like than CSS. It's not super compatible.
Yep. It feels less like JavaScript to me, at least.
Yeah. All right. So Eric Oska says they use Sass, but where specifically do you mean like the .sass file extension as opposed to the .scss file extension? Because the .sass file extension is like pretty, I don't know, I would say it's pretty out of date at this point.
All right, so we have a working application, and now all I should have to do is copy over the things from it. So
also, Darius asks, after creating a new Angular app, is ESLint migration needed? I mean, creating a new app.
We still add TSLint in by default in 11.
We do, okay. So yeah, TSLint is deprecated or going to be deprecated. I forget where we are in the timeline.
TSLint is deprecated by Palantir. We are still using it as the default canonical in 11. I think in 12 it's going away, or not going away. Like it's moving to an ng add thing, so that people aren't automatically forced into something that's deprecated.
Yeah, I think like we're basically moving to a model like ng deploy where there's no like official linter, but you can choose like whatever one you want from like community linters.
From app to app. Great. All right. Now let's see if our app works.
I'm reading about the container query CSS spec or proposal.
Container query CSS spec. What is that?
So if I'm, if my understanding is correct, right? You know how we have media queries that say like, okay, apply this CSS when the screen is this size and this CSS when the screen is this size, right? Well, container media queries would let you basically do that, except instead of talking about the size of the screen, it would let you talk about the size of some containing element. So that way you can say like, oh, just based on the size of like, oh, maybe I'm putting a component inside like a side nav, or maybe I'm putting it in a dialog. And based on the size of that, I want to change how I look.
Oh, we should.
Ajit asks if we have any thoughts about the new Roam project. I think it's probably still too early to have any thoughts about it.
I mean, it looks cool. I love the idea. We've seen that ambitious projects get harder and harder the further along you get. Like literally, they have to rebuild all of the work that's ever been put into Webpack and the linters and which you could do. Like people have done it before, but it's super hard.
Yeah, and there's the whole like second system syndrome, where you have a system and it works, and that a system is not something that evolved over the course of many years and grew out of trying to solve a particular problem, and then you get to a point where you're really frustrated or tired of all of the like kludgy parts of your first system, and you say, well, we've learned so much. We can build a better system now that solves these problems that we originally tried to solve, and we're going to do it this different way that doesn't have all of these issues of the first solution. And so you do it, but what you don't realize is that in taking a very different approach than the first time, you are now doing something completely different than what you're experienced with, and you introduce a completely different set of problems that you didn't know about because they weren't the problems you had the first time, because you're using a different approach than you used the first time. And so really what you've done is, sure, you've solved the like kludgy parts of your original solution, but you've ended up with kludgy parts in a completely different way that may be better, maybe worse, maybe just kind of a lateral move overall from where you came from. It's very hard to like take something that exists and that's working and then just kind of like build the whole thing all over again, except better, and have that be both actually better and be, you know, healthier code, better maintained, or however you want to spin it. It's a hard thing to do.
So I've got typings bugs in my app, which is like totally legit because this type doesn't exist on a realm whatsoever. So.
Darius says, it sounds a lot like AngularJS and Angular history, and boy, you sure are right.
Yeah, no comment on that one. So here let's get real, Jeremy. Do you think we could have incrementally migrated AngularJS now? I mean, and we've got 5 years of hindsight, right? So
I honestly don't know, but that second system syndrome absolutely applied to Angular, right? Because in going to Angular, we like, you know, Angular started before I even joined the team, so you know, a lot of this is after the fact stuff, but like we solved problems in a way that the team didn't have a very lengthy experience with, right? So like instead of taking HTML templates and interpolating them at runtime, right, it was like, okay, we're going to build a compile time tool that takes your templates and converts them into JavaScript code, right? And so you need like a parser, and you need the whole compiler chain, and you need that to be performant, and you need a fast developer turnaround cycle. And the team just didn't have experience building that kind of thing. And so we end up in a situation where like that part of the experience doesn't have the same benefit of experience that the actual framework parts have, right? And so even though we can make like components better, and they have like view encapsulation and styles, and it's class-based, and you have like better defined inputs and outputs and the change detection, right? All that stuff, like, yeah, the team has a lot of experience doing that stuff and can do that better. But like building a compiler tool and, building a router from a totally different paradigm with a lot more features, right? All that stuff, it's like you're doing something you've never done before, and so you're going to run into problems you didn't foresee. And, that's why we keep working on it. That's why we keep making updates. That's why there's a new version every 6 months, is because we're going to keep making it better day after day, and just make incremental improvements. I think ultimately, like what I've learned over the years as a software engineer is that most of the time, I'll say 90% of the time, you want to improve what you have through incremental changes. And the only time you want to get into rewrite territory is when you are looking at a hard need to do something 10 times better than what you're doing today. There's an engineer who I know at Google who has said something like, refactoring or making incremental changes can get you like a 2x improvement, but getting a 10x improvement requires a re-architecture. And that re-architecture is always going to have trade-offs, right? You can't keep doing all the same stuff you're doing with the old architecture and then also just have it be 10 times better software. It doesn't work that way. You always have to give up something.
Yeah, totally agree. No, it's not that. So Ajit says there's no way to create better software. And I think that's totally not true. I'll also say I think rebuilds become more viable when you have no downstream dependencies, right? If you are building a product that's built for users, right? And maybe you want to re-platform, like you have some e-commerce website and you want to re-platform from PHP to Node.js or to Deno or whatever. Like that might be more feasible than migrating a library and a tool that's used by a bunch of people.
Yeah, but even then, right? I've been part of I've been actually, I think every product I've ever worked on, I joined at the front edge of a rewrite. And it's fun to do a rewrite because you get to basically write a lot of code, but there's so much more work than anybody ever predicts because it's hard to duplicate everything you had done before. Yeah, when I first joined Google, I worked on an ads product where we were doing a rewrite. This actually, it was called DoubleClick Campaign Manager, and it was the very first large AngularJS application at Google. They started building it when AngularJS was at like version 0.6. And at the time, it was just Mishko and Igor working on AngularJS, and they would fly out to New York every now and then to help support the team. I think when version 0.010 came out, Vojta had just joined the team, and it was like had a bunch of breaking changes. And so Mishko and Igor just put Vojta on a plane from the office. They just sent Vojta to the airport and like, go to New York and help them. That was before I started, but it's a story that gets told a lot. But yeah, we were doing this rewrite because we were taking an old DoubleClick product that came in with the acquisition and getting it to run on Google's tech, right? Which is like a pretty good reason to do a rewrite because Google doesn't like running products or services that are not on Google infrastructure. It's kind of a liability.
It's more expensive, right? Like it's not like that they don't like
it. It's more expensive. It's less scalable. It's more expensive.
It's not maintainable, right? Like,
yeah, it's just like not long-term viable inside Google.
All right, Jeremy, I think I did it.
I forgot what you were even doing.
What do you mean? So instead of using ng update to update my project from the oldest Angular to the most recent Angular, I just created an ng new project, and now I'm copying over all my source files. So my assets, my styles, my HTML, and my TypeScript. And now we're going to see if everything just works kind of magically. And to me, it looks like it does. So let's see. So this is a little game I was working on.
So my question is then, couldn't you just have... Couldn't you have just bumped the version in your package.json and gotten the same thing?
Absolutely not, because there is so much to the Angular build system that is not my project. So like, let me do this. What we can do now is, this is when you want to do this, like this whole trick about like engineering a new project. What I do is I move .git to like .git back. And then we just copy recursively the other Git file here. And then what we can do is when we run git status now, it's literally just diffing the old project and the new project. And so all of my files shouldn't have actually changed at all. What we're going to see, we got to, let's move this out, move.git back. Just move it out of here for now, and then refresh. So these are all of the files that have changed between Angular 7 and Angular 10 that have nothing to do with my project. So browser list, editor config, git ignore, Oh, apparently I had a Travis configuration I might want to copy over.
Remember when you just wrote an index.html file and put a script tag in there with all your global JavaScript?
Yeah, and you didn't have all these benefits.
You drop jQuery in, start throwing up some event handlers, and
All right, I
you're
don't
in
care about
business.
karma, so we're going to discard that
Building
one.
multi-million-dollar products.
I need my README back. So tsconfig. Yeah, we'll just take the new one, whatever the new tslint config is, the new yarnlock protractor. Like, we changed all these settings in protractor. So,
Let's see. Darius asks, what do you think is missing from Angular to make it the best platform? And so the first thing I'll say is there's no such thing as a best platform because software is always about trade-offs. You could make the most high performance framework that has ever existed, and it's miserable to use and requires a team of 30 people to finally calibrate it. You could build something where everything just kind of works like magic and is as slow as molasses. The hard thing is finding where on that spectrum of developer experience and performance and simplicity, where is the sweet spot for developers? And there are multiple sweet spots in there, right? There are some developers and some products that care more about performance. There are some that care more about development productivity. And so I think Angular tends to lean a little bit more towards trying to make the developer experience better, while still trying to keep performance, not terrible, still good, but it's obviously doing a lot more stuff than just like native, like vanilla JavaScript on the page. That said, that's the first part of my answer. The second part of my answer is that there's still a lot we want to do with Angular that I think will make it a lot more valuable. I think one of the things I would really like to see happen that we have in our backlog, in our priority queue, is making lazy loading for much more granular pieces of your application, making them more ergonomic, right? So potentially being able to like lazy load directives and components like just kind of automatically and much more easily. You can do it today, right? There's some libraries in the community space that let you do this, but you have to go do extra stuff to set that up. And I think that if we're able to make that much easier out of the box, then that's really nice. If you can like lazy load directives, lazy load components, like say you have like some pre-rendered button or some menu component, right? And like, what if your menu code lazy loads as you mouse over the button to open it, right? That's really powerful stuff. What if you can lazy load all of your animations code because you don't need animations for initial render?
Pay for what you need when you need it.
Yeah.
And then you have the option to say, hey, this user has a great network connection. Let's go preload everything else. Or this user doesn't have a great network connection. Let's not preload everything else. That's definitely on my list. The other two on my list would be server-side rendering. So being able to actually hydrate a page from a server-side render, those sorts of things, making it really easy to server-side render. For example, on my personal blog, I have this little pre-render script. I can actually probably show it off. This is super hacky. You can feel free to borrow the code if you really want to. But what I do is let's see if I'm in the right project. Source/pre-render. I spin up a ng build prod. Then I serve that via npx HTTP server. And then I hit it with Puppeteer and save that to disk. So this file, instead of less, let's actually code it so people can read it. This is a 50-line script that figures out what paths I want to pre-render. And this basically just gives me a pre-render version of my blog. And so Facebook and Twitter are able to scroll it and scrape it and get all the data out without having to run any JavaScript. And users get a perceived performance bump because the page looks like it's loaded. with all the content, and the content is there, right? And then we behind the scenes lazy load the client side and then re-render the whole page, but it's transparent to users. So this 50-line script, which is mostly like just setting up stuff and rendering it, totally like dramatically transforms the things that my web application can do. But I still wrote the entire app in Angular, so I didn't have to like learn different concepts, didn't have to do better. Oh, you can't see my screen? Oh, that's embarrassing. All right, here we go. This is prerender.ts in Fluent.io. So this is on GitHub if you're looking for it. So basically, it has a single function main. It spins up an ng build-prod, then it runs HTTP server, and then it takes, once the HTTP server is actually spun up, we render a list of URLs. So I have a method here that says, what are the URLs of my website? And I can just get that from the JSON from my backend. So I know exactly the URLs I need to pre-render. And then for every paid URL that I'm rendering, I just save it to the disk, like as an HTML file. So that when you load Fluent.io, you're getting synchronously effectively a fully rendered client-side page. Twitter can read that, Facebook can read that. So if I share content, LinkedIn can read it. It has all the metadata they need in order to make the content shareable. But then I can build it in Angular and not have to worry about like having a separate server-side render, having a separate application architecture, and I still get all the kind of client-side bells and whistles like route animations. So pre-rendering and server-side rendering, I think, is something that needs to get a lot easier. But I think that's a game changer for a lot of developers. And then the last one that I talk a lot about is module federation, where we're seeing Angular developers get to a scale where they want their things from separate teams to plug into each other without having a single build system, without having a single build target or libraries that were all compiled together. And that is fundamentally challenging because right now Angular kind of assumes that everything is the same version, built in the same way, by the same team, in the same repository. But that's not how a lot of real teams work. And so there's some really cool work being done by Manfred Steyer, for example, where he has like a package you can ng add in now, and it sets up module federation so that you and a colleague can independently build libraries and apps, and they just kind of get plugged together at runtime. And, I mean, you're then responsible for guaranteeing consistency between them, but that's what a lot of teams want to work on. Universal with pre-rendering absolutely has the same effect, but there is a uncanny valley with universal pre-rendering, which is that it only works if your application only does things that run in Node. So for example, if you ever refer out to any browser APIs, if you ever refer out to local storage, Universal will just fail. It will not pre-render your site. Whereas doing this with Puppeteer, there is zero uncanny valley because anything that works for my actual users is going to work for the script. And so I don't have to worry about what JavaScript I'm writing. Someone had a problem serving PWA as static pages. They had to configure Nginx, testing using Lighthouse. From a start URL, unable to use offline. Yeah, I've seen people combine PWAs and pre-rendering, and the really important question there is, what is the experience you're trying to create? Because if effectively you need to make sure that you're not actually caching any of the pre-rendered pages, because what you want to do is you want to serve up static HTML so that the first load works, so that crawling works. But then what you want the service worker to load is the actual, only the client-side application, and then you just ignore everything else and you replace it. So that is a configuration that you have to do, where you shouldn't be caching and including in your service worker all of that extra server-side rendered or pre-rendered code. And if you're curious, if you want to see how this works, let me put up on the screen the GitHub repository for it. I'm a really big fan of simple solutions to complex problems that solve 80% of the use cases. Jeremy, I don't know how you feel about that. You're more of a high quality engineer.
It depends on what's in the 20%, right? If it is like accessibility, that's something that is bad because you are like leaving out a group of people who is often left out, right? But if it's something like you're just deciding not to pursue like 20% of the market or something like that, then that's a business decision to make.
Sure. So here's the pre-render script. So it's in my Fluent.io repository on GitHub, if you're curious how that works. Scully does the same thing, and I love Scully. When I've tried doing Scully myself, it seems really complex. I haven't tried it recently, but like I think Scully is what this script should become, effectively. So I should probably check in on Scully and spend more time on it. All right, Jeremy, did you want to help me work on my game?
So what's your game?
So this is a game that I call Hex Layer, where you get these like little villager guys. So like anytime you have two contiguous blocks, that is a realm, and that realm generates income, has upkeep, has a balance, and then using that balance, you can buy things. So this was actually dumb because I spent exactly enough that I couldn't do anything. Let's try this again. Actually, I wonder if I could just pull up my hex. Somewhere I have a Python version of this game that I wrote. That's what I was actually trying to port. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Have you ever played a game like this?
I mean, I've played Settlers of Catan.
It is not like that because there's just a resources like money system. All right. Hex Layer.
Yeah. So Ajit asks, they say, I think people can create meta frameworks over Angular just using Angular core in common and use it just as a rendering library with some basic Angular features. I don't know if that's true. Right? You can certainly build libraries on top of Angular. You can build components and utilities and things like that. But you're still writing Angular templates, right? Dependency injection is still in there, right? Like,
we don't spend any time to make that possible.
Yeah.
No one tries it, and so it ends up not being easy at all.
It is not a design consideration for the team in any way. We're focused on like basically taking the Angular that everyone uses and improving that over time rather than trying to like make a framework for building frameworks. I think this is something that came up in the Angular like contributor days too, is like someone wanted to know like, oh, can you make it so that you can customize the template syntax? And like the answer to that, like, no, we wouldn't do that because it is our goal to make a web framework and not make a tool for making web frameworks.
All right. So here's Hex Layer. So I'm the green character. So any region that has 2, I can afford to buy a villager because I have that much income. I have 1 income per tile and upkeep based on the units I buy. So I'm going to buy this little villager guy, pop him there. So now I've like expanded this realm. And I'll do the same thing over here. And you can enter, and then the AI is going to try and buy units and attack you and whatnot. So like maybe I'm probably not going to do very well here. There's also a hierarchy. So villagers can't attack. They can't take towns because the town protects all the tiles around it. And then if you have a lot of money, you can buy things like a castle, which is like 1 level up, or you can combine 2 villagers and get the next level. So like if I just buy here.
What would you compare this to?
There is a game I found called Slay. It's not super comparable. So you see that they bought wizards and now they've got bought knights. So then I'm gonna use my 17. I'm going to upgrade to a wizard, and now I'm going to be able to take this town and actually split the region.
Yeah, because I mean, this has got very much like some level of like civilization energy, right? Except it's much more low resolution, figuratively speaking.
Sure. But I built an AI. I'm really actually proud of the AI I built. It's pretty cool. Oh, see, these units, they couldn't afford their upkeep, and because I took some of their tiles, and then they all died.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the game I'm trying to reproduce.
Civilization?
No. Hex Layer.
Is your AI a state machine?
Is my AI a state machine? What do you mean? Yes? Isn't all AI
I mean,
state machine?
There are different approaches you can take to modeling your AI. My knowledge in this comes from, I took one class on video game AI in college, which was more than 10 years ago now. So that is like the most basic form of AI for a game, is just doing a state machine. And if you just have basically a big mass of if statements or switch statements, then that is like basically a state machine.
So yeah, I mean, so I implemented a bunch of AIs. So there's human intelligence, naive AI, sleep AI, AI plus, and then I think I built like an AI plus plus. No, full AI. So the naive AI tries to buy units whenever it can afford it, and then it just buys, like, it grabs whatever tiles it can around it. And then full AI is more intelligent, where it detects, like, is the board at the second level of play? Like, because I shouldn't upgrade units beyond, or I have to upgrade units to the level of play that people are playing at. Otherwise, I'll get stuck, but I don't want to go too far. Look at that. Oh, event notation right there in my comments. What a good little coder I was in 2010.
Do you know?
Oh, yeah. So this is, I mean, it is a state machine, but it's, yeah, not like a state machine. Like I couldn't graph this out very easily.
Yeah. So Ajit says, asking right now because it feels like server-side rendering is not a priority right now, but if there are meta frameworks, they can just add one more feature, and feature like focus on SSR, and everything else can be the same. Yeah, like anything the team cannot focus on right now, community could fill in.
I mean, that's why I love Scully. Like, should we give Scully a try? Should we actually jump in here and try this?
Not tonight. It's already kind of late. Maybe another week.
Shouldn't it just be ng add and then you just run it and it just works?
Well, no, you say we do it another week, and we tell Frosty we're going to do it, and then they promote our stream.
All right. Next week on Jeremy and Steven Waste Our Time, we'll do a Scully stream. Sounds good to me. It'll be late for him though. He's mountain time. I mean, we got people in Finland, so
we should try just doing this during the afternoon at some point instead of
working
for us.
I like that. Put in the chat what time you want us to do the stream, and we'll maybe consider it.
Well, that is the most sample bias thing I've ever heard.
It's kind of like putting armor on planes based on where you find the bullets. For anyone that hasn't heard this metaphor, they did a study of like looking at World War II planes, and they came back with like a heat map of where they found the bullets on all the planes that came back. And then the naive response to that is put the armor where the bullets are. But it's actually completely wrong, because where the bullets are means that it was a non-fatal hit to the plane. And the plane actually made it back, because all the planes that got hit on like the engine didn't make it back. That's one of my favorite like sampling bias problem or examples and stories.
Yeah.
Do you want to play my Python game, Jeremy, and see if you can beat it?
I don't want to like download and install it.
I'll just clone it and then run it.
Here, why don't you bring it up and I'll just tell you what to do.
All right, here we go.
I'm great at backseat gaming.
See, but part of my problem is that I know all of the weaknesses of the AI. So you're gonna really need to take charge here. All right. Should we do a new game? Do you need the tutorial?
All right, you are the green player. Each region you control will gain gold each turn. Use this gold by selecting a tile and purchasing a villager from the store at the bottom. Drag your villager into your realm and attack unprotected enemy squares. Okay. Sounds like Civilization.
All right, we're gonna do a new game here.
All right. So what do we do first?
So round one, that you have no money. So you got to end turn. So you've got 22 tiles. There's 3 naive AIs, a AI plus, and a full AI playing.
All right.
So we'll end turn.
So that's optimal play so far.
So now this realm has enough money to buy a villager if you want. Again, villagers have upkeep of 2. So reduce your income, but you could immediately take a tile if you wanted to. You could take this purple one, you could take this blue one, purple, blue.
So by how much does that increase our income?
Each tile is worth 1. And your villager can move every turn.
Well then, yeah, we got to make a villager, right? We got to start the ramp.
Okay. And where do you want to put them?
Take a tile.
Blue, purple? Who do you want to fight?
Bottom right.
This one? Purple?
Yeah.
Ooh, so you combined 2 regions here. So by doing that, like the capital city, this little village got recombined. And their balances also got combined. So now you can afford another villager if you want.
Yeah.
So like, for example, if you took this gray one, you'd get access to this one, right? So you'd gain 2.
That's exactly what I was going to do, Steven.
All right, and no other spinny, so I don't think there's anything else you can do this turn. All right. You're up, Jeremy.
Yeah, so we're going to put a villager up and to the right, down, right, up 1. Oh, actually, no, yeah, connect those 3.
Wait, so here?
Yeah.
Do you want to, you can actually afford a new villager, so we'll just move this guy?
Yeah.
To there?
There you go. Can
so
I move?
The spinnies, if you can't tell, mean you can do something.
Yeah. Okay, now, what's with the huts?
So a villager can't take a square protected by a hut or a hut.
Okay.
So like this hut effectively protects this little hex square from other villagers.
So how do I take them?
You upgrade. So you take like a villager and you drop them on another villager and they become a wizard.
All right, let's make a wizard then.
You want to upgrade this guy?
Yeah.
Wizard.
All right. Can he take the village to the top right of it?
Here or here?
Up one. Yeah, that one. There we go. What's the action available in the village?
You have enough money to buy another villager if you'd like.
Do I have anywhere to expand? Yeah. On the right side of the board in the gray square that would connect the 3 dark gray ones.
Here?
Yeah.
Oh, no. People can only move to adjacent squares. So like this realm, you can move anywhere within this realm and take any square adjacent to it. But you can't jump over there.
Well, then spawn that villager as close as possible to there, and I'm going to start making my way over.
Here?
If I can, yeah.
Yep. But you've split this now, so now you have a realm there and a realm there. All right, that's all you can do. So we're going to hit next.
The AI just goes kind of instantly, huh?
What do you mean? Goes instantly?
It's just like it's just done in an instant.
Yeah.
Um,
What do you want? Cool animations of them like sound effects?
yeah. So take the wizard and capture the hut bottom right of it.
This one?
Yeah. And then take the villager and combine the, yeah.
Has to be this one because you can't take that one because it's protected.
Yep.
So just by the way, now this realm that goes from here all the way to over here has an income of 20 and an upkeep of 8.
Sure.
And you can afford one more villager.
Do I have room to expand? It looks like I'm fenced in by villages all over the place.
No, there's lots. Like here's a square. Here's a square. Here's a square. There's lots of squares. What do you mean?
Each square gets me one income.
Oh, because the little hut only protects squares in the grid that belong to the same color.
Okay.
You only protect your own stuff.
Well then, yeah, pop me off another villager, and we'll just start cleaning up the.
Where's your?
Let's start on the bottom left part of this, and
Like the purple or the blue?
the colors are all washed out on my screen because I use Flux. So
I'm sorry. This one to the left or down?
yeah, that one.
Done. All right, you're out of money, so we'll hit next. All right. What's up?
All right, I want the wizard to take the up and right.
Here?
Yeah. And then that villager goes down and left.
Here?
Yeah. See, I feel like I've gotten to the point where I should just be able to play like, okay, autoplay this to the end for me.
No, so one of the things is you're completely not protecting this middle area now. So like this next turn, this guy can just take you, right?
How do I build a city?
What's that?
How do I build a hut?
How do you build a castle?
Is that what?
I think they cost like 20.
Yeah, I'll just take it back if they take it.
Okay. So you want him to move?
Yep.
Where?
Straight down. Oh, I guess I can do that. I don't care, and that not caring is making it hard to decide. So
I'm just gonna make bad choices for you.
just pick somewhere.
All right. Now you've been split into 3 separate realms.
Mm-hmm. Now, can I kill that villager?
This one?
No, the one on the red.
Where?
The one on the red.
Here? This one?
No, left.
Yes. Him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Get him.
Here you come.
Yeah.
You've remerged these 2 regions.
Cool. Combine the 2 villagers into another wizard.
What 2 villagers? You only have... Oh, you want me to buy another villager? Like that, and then combine them?
I had 2.
Yeah, but this guy's stuck over in this realm.
Oh. Well, go kill the guy that's at the fort.
Here?
Yeah.
All right, so you bought another villager. You combined him into a wizard. Now you've recombined your 2 regions.
Yep. Now take that one that's left and at the very top of the region, expand upwards. That's it.
All right, you got 28 left.
Cool.
Do you want to buy anything or just end turn?
Let's make another wizard.
Another wizard. Where do you want to go?
Just pick a random and the enemy that's closest and kill them.
Done.
It's nice having this army of murder wizards. Yeah, the wizards are just going to murder now. That's all I want to do.
Okay. So murder, murder, murder.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I make another wizard?
Sure. You can make another wizard.
Keep the murders coming.
Okay. More murder. 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 Murder.
Game plays itself. Make another wizard if you can for more murders.
Another wizard. Do you know you can upgrade past wizard? But there's no reason to now. Unless you want to just see what it does. All right, who do you want to murder? This guy's next to your realm. This guy's next to your realm. Nobody else is next to your realm.
Anybody who's getting close.
Yeah, there's nobody close.
If there's not anybody close, start moving towards them.
Okay. That?
Yep.
Okay. Do you want more wizards?
No. I don't want to go over the income upkeep.
Oh yeah. You have 32 income and 32 upkeep right now.
Yeah. We've got enough funds for our blood war.
I'm just gonna play for you.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna hit end turn a bunch of times until you're all dead. Okay, now go ahead. What do you want to do?
Why did all my people die?
I hit end turn 3 or 4 times.
Why'd you do that?
And these knights came and killed you.
Well, see, once the knights started arriving, I should have also made knights.
You couldn't afford a knight though, because they cost. They're another upgrade from a villager. You need to combine another villager into your wizard.
But so how was anybody making money when I was killing all their dudes and taking all their land?
They actually had more territory than you did the whole time.
Well, we lost this one.
Not necessarily. I could get us back here. Here's what we do. We pop a castle on. Protect ourselves. Castles have no upkeep. And then we just eat away at their income.
So why haven't you had Stephanie make you better graphics for this yet?
You don't like the graphics I drew? What on earth could be wrong with these graphics, Jeremy? I don't. What are you talking about, Jeremy?
You haven't answered my question.
Why haven't I had Stephanie update the graphics? Because I haven't worked on this game since 2010. I think there's somebody that can defeat a knight, though. Who is it? So there's 2 ways to defeat a knight. One is you just cut off his upkeep, like this. Right, so now they probably can't. They have an upkeep of 24, income of 9. So they're probably going to die next round. There we go. The other one is if you just upgrade a wizard, there's a knight or swordsman, and then there's one past. Snap! I can't afford it. Apparently, I have to actually play the game and do well. Otherwise, you can't afford anything. See, this isn't the worst game I've ever made, Jeremy. You got to say this is pretty cool.
I mean, it's certainly clever. I feel like if you took this and polished it up, turned it into a PWA, threw in some microtransactions to buy more coins, you could actually, not too bad for yourself if you manage to rise above the C level of other games out there like this.
I mean, you saw I started porting it to Angular, so like totally possible. You want to know another strategy? If you capture in a honeycomb pattern, it allows you to cut off the revenue stream faster. Because a single thing doesn't generate enough money to actually buy anything. All right, we should be done here soon. So I have 34 tiles now. The full AI only has 32. Although, hey, what are these people doing down here? Stop! Get away from my realm. I need enough money to buy a castle. Yeah, I mean, like, as soon as I port this over to Angular, it's going to be the best game ever. Do people want me to port this to Angular? Because I started. I just didn't do anything with it. Oh, Jeremy, it's a night. What do I do?
Wait for sunrise.
No, bad joke. Don't like it. Downvote. How do you downvote someone, Jeremy? How do I downvote you?
I think you should invert it so that wizards are better than knights. Right? So you go like...
Yeah, but like a wizard can cast spells, but a knight stabs the wizard in the heart.
A knight is just a guy with a sharp piece of metal. A wizard is wielding the forces of creation. Would hit them with lightning before they even get within swinging distance.
Is he though? All right, we need to start.
You always play sneaky archers in RPGs, don't you?
I do. I love like range stealth.
Of course you do.
Just give me more of that range stealth, Jeremy.
See, when I play any game I play, always mage. Every time.
Why is that?
When I played Skyrim, my strategy was to use the shout that stops time and then just cast lightning bolts until anything was dead. It was usually before time started again.
Makes sense. Oh no, blue has wizards. See, like I didn't build a terrible game. If I can like the AI can come back a little bit. One of the tricks is buying castles because they have no upkeep, and so it's just like OP. But I can't afford a castle right now. Now I can. Okay, castle here. Boop. Purple, you're going to be gone soon. And also, fighting in a line, if you know what I mean, like having a front, so you're not just battling everybody all the time.
Minko was looking for ideas for something to do with TensorFlow JS and Angular demo. You could train an AI to play your game.
So you're saying we'd build a recognizer that can recognize good moves? Like, I don't feel like TensorFlow is designed for that type of game. Am I wrong?
I actually don't know. I haven't used it myself. I assumed it was just kind of a general purpose, like model building tool.
Like the easiest types of MLs to build are classifiers and recognizers. So it's like Boolean or...
This is the type of game that seems like it's perfect for ML, right? Because your fitness function is really easy to put together. And you have like a discrete set of inputs, a discrete set of possible outputs. The space is very large, but that's kind of where these things succeed, right?
Yeah.
Disclaimer, not a machine learning person.
Not yet, Jeremy.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm 34 now. I'm getting to that point in my life where I stop being able to learn new things.
I think you can still learn new things, Jeremy. You're being rude to all of the 35-year-olds.
I'm trying to self-deprecate, but actually that's pretty ageist.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely is. What are you going to say to make up for it?
I was just trying to self-deprecate and not imply anything about other people.
You're just taking everyone down with you? I can't believe you, Jeremy. I just can't believe you. All right, it's almost over. And then we can get back to Angular questions. I mean, there haven't been any Angular questions in the meantime. So if you have Angular questions, definitely please keep them coming. Otherwise, I'm going to defeat the AI I designed and show my creation who's boss. Jeremy, why didn't we build a game tonight?
You did. You took some source code and you built it and you ran a game.
You're technically correct, which is the best kind of correct.
So I have an idea for a game if I were ever to sit down and try to make one, which is where, so the premise is basically a deck building puzzle game, right? Where you build a deck of, let's call them moves. And then you go into like a puzzle room and you have to use cards from your deck to apply various changes to the room to get through it, right? And so kind of flavor-wise, I'm imagining like the deck of cards are punch cards, which are programs, right? And the programs could be things like open door or but it's like open door for 3 seconds or something like that, right? And you would have like punch card terminals where it's like, okay, this terminal can only take 2 cards, and this terminal can take 3 cards, or this one can take 1 card. And you have your discrete set of cards, and so you have to try to get through the environment using only the cards that you go in with, and you have to put together a deck to get through, I don't know, let's say like 5 rooms at a time, and you don't know what exact puzzles you're going to encounter, and so you're like trying to come up with something that's general purpose enough to get you through. I don't know if it would actually pan out in practice, but I think it's an interesting idea.
Yeah, it feels like it might be too easy to solve once you know the game, whatever. Does that make any sense?
I mean, it's one of those things where like it's impossible to predict like if that would be the case. Like there's no substitute for playtesting it.
Jeremy, I did it. Hex Layer's been defeated.
Player 0, parentheses, you won. You could just make it say you won. That is within your power.
The code that says who won just says which player won. Like it's designed such that like if you plugged in 2 human players, it would say like player 2, Steven, player 0. Like, yes, I should special case it and see if you are the one that won, but I don't right now.
All right. Is it time to get asleep?
Hey, are you proud of the let's go back to the web one, because that's what people are actually here to see. Did you notice that I was using CDK drag drop on a hex grid?
Yeah, it wasn't designed to do that.
So what do you mean? It's CDK drag drop is designed so that you can come up with what you want.
No, it was designed like it's currently only supports one-dimensional lists, either horizontal or vertical. I don't know how you made it work on a hex grid.
What do you mean? This is just an NG4.
Oh, you're dropping things from outside of the list into the list.
No, you can move. It doesn't work right now, but to my understanding, is you can drop things. I had it working before.
Let me rephrase. You are not dragging and dropping the tiles in the hex grid.
No.
Yeah, that wouldn't work.
Yep. I'm actually amazed at how well it works, because like I'm doing some pretty naive stuff. Let's see here. Do we have enough money? Yeah. So you'll note that like you have to like it roughly, actually, no, I don't remember if it assumes it's a square or if you can actually do it as a an actual hexagon. Should we look at the code? Because effectively what this is just a ng4 list of tiles. Like it's a two-dimensional grid with some sass to offset everything to make it a hex grid.
I think you would have to use SVGs to get the effect you want. And even then,
they are SVGs. What do you mean? Oh, for the hexes?
For the hexes.
Why?
Because
they are, but
because I don't know that you can actually get like a real hexagon shape. I don't, even with SVGs, I'm not sure you'd be able to do it, because I think like in HTML, everything is a square, right? And so maybe with clip path, but that's only going to affect rendering. That's not going to affect interaction. So I don't know.
Yeah, so effectively you're dragging and dropping on these divs, right? Or these apexes.
What you would probably want to do is make the drag and drop area just the rectangle within the hex and not the like little triangle parts on the sides.
Yeah, but that's harder because naively the div container has to contain the whole hexagon. It would be harder to make a div container where it's got negative padding to draw the thing outside of the div container.
I mean, you just make your drag drop target a child of the hex.
But are you just absolutely positioning it or relatively positioning it on top of the SVG?
It's just a sub element to the SVG. Put a rect in there.
Wait, you can have a drag drop target as a subset of an SVG?
Why couldn't you? SVG elements are just elements.
Are they?
For the most part. They're weird in some ways, but you know, you can still query selector them and add event listeners to them.
Okay. Well, Jeremy, I think we should end here. We got the game building. We defeated the game. We got some ideas for the future. We're gonna do. What's the stream we're gonna do at some point?
Scully.
Scully, yeah. Let's do Scully next week. All right. Anything else you want to do before we call it a night?
Steven, the point was to play games. The point was to play games.
I did play a game.
Yeah. So
you don't play a game?
I played a game vicariously through you.
And then when you lost, I had to recover.
You made me lose by getting next turn.
Do you want to show off your Stardew Valley world now?
No, I think I'm bad now.
All right. Thank you, everyone that's watching. And I think if you stay tuned and you tune in next time, we'll be adding Scully to some maps and trying it out and seeing what we think. Maybe we can get Aaron Frost on as well. Good night, everybody. Bye.